Hello and welcome to Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I'm Jennifer Helm, the Faithful Stamper, and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up. Today I have for you a real showstopper of a card. This is a card that is called a pillar pyramid card. So here's the big wow. It's built in 3 panels that create a pyramid. I guess that shows you the pyramid shape a little bit better. The card will stand up, so it is very nice to gift to someone and have it be able to be put on a shelf or a mantle so they can know that you were thinking of them all the time. Have it on display, but it actually also folds flat, so you can mail it in a regular size envelope. Now, I do recommend either putting extra postage on it or checking with your post office to see if it needs extra postage if you are going to be mailing it and not hand delivering it to your recipient. It just does have a little bit more bulk because of all these layers. And you might be thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know, that's a lot. It might be a lot, but it's a lot of easy steps. It's just cutting and scoring. And so let's walk through this technique together. So this pillar pyramid card is inspired by Rachel Tessman of Stamp Your Art Out with Rachel. I saw her make a beautiful card and decided I needed to try this technique as well. So to start, you need 2 sheets of cardstock, or a sheet and a half, as I'm going to show you here in a minute. I'm using Mossy Meadow. You could mix and match colors if you wanted. I actually kept all my layers on all my samples all the same color for all 3 of the pillars. So the first sheet, I'm going to explain this and then I'm going to show you in a minute. You're going to take 1 sheet of 8.5 by 11. We're going to cut it to 5.5 by 9. And then we're going to take the strip and cut a 3 by 5.5 inch piece. Again, I'll show you this in just a second. Now the second, if you've got a full sheet, you can cut in half. So that will leave you with a 5.5 by 8.5 piece. And then we're going to cut it down to 5.5 by 6. So take a second, take a screenshot, pause the video, and jot some notes down if you are interested in making one of these yourself. So let's break out the cutter paper trimmer scorer, and I will show you how we're going to do this. We're going to start by cutting, and then we'll score all the pieces. So first sheet of 8.5 by 11, I'm going to cut it to 5.5 by 9. So I'm going to put it with the 8.5 inch at the top, line it up at 5.5, and cut. This thin strip is 3 inches. Hold on to this. We're going to use that in just a second. Rotate your cardstock, put in the 11-inch side, and cut 2 inches off. So we're cutting it down to 5.5 by 9. Set this to the side. We'll score that in a minute. This little strip left over, use on another project. Then we're going to take the 3 by 11 inch piece and we're going to cut that in half to make 3 by 5.5. Take 1 chunk, save for another project. This is going to be our top pillar. The first piece was our bottom pillar. And so then let's do the middle one. So this one we're going to cut down. It's 5.5. We want to cut it to 6 by 5.5. Again, this little piece, another project. So we're going to start scoring next. And since I have this one here, I'm going to start with that. So that 5.5 inch by 6 piece, make sure you have the 6 inches across the top. It's not quite a square. So just make sure, I like to double check that I've still got the right side up. So we're going to score the 6 inch piece at 2 1/4, 2 3/4, 5 and 5.5. So, oops, 2 1/4. Again, make sure you're scoring, not cutting. 2 3/4, 5 and 5.5. So there's 1 piece. Now the other 2 pieces are, the scoring directions are here. So we are going to take the 5.5 by 9 inch piece. We're going to score that long side. All the pieces are 5.5 inches tall, which is the height of the card. So we're scoring on the other measurement side. So the 9-inch side, we're going to score at 3 3/4, 4 1/4, 8 and 8 1/2. So here's 3 3/4, 4 1/4, slide on down to 8, and 8 1/2 is our last score on this piece. And then last but not least, we can't forget our mini pillar. I'm gonna go ahead and close that. And then for this piece here, we're scoring the 3-inch side. We're gonna score it at 3/4 of an inch, 1 1/4, 2, and then 2 1/2. And now we are done with the scoring. We will come back to our paper trimmer in a little bit. But what we're going to do is we're going to assemble the pillars first. So I like to bring over my silicone mat. This is something that is very handy to have for this card. First, we're going to fold on all the score lines. They can all be folded in the same direction, no tricky mountains and valleys, because we are just simply forming these rectangular boxes or pillars. Each of the pieces ended up with a 1/2-inch flap, which is how we're going to seal them together. So I like to quickly fold on all my score lines. You can use a bone folder to get nice crisp folds. And then we have this small one, our mini pillar, that goes on the top, like so. So let's go ahead and attach these. What I like to do is I've got my basic shape together. I like to open it back up and lay it flat so that my 1/2-inch flap is facing up. And then I take my Stampin' Seal Plus and I can run it right down that flap. You can use liquid glue for this. I just like to use my seal as often as I can. Everything else I'm going to do here with liquid glue later. And then match up those flaps. I like to give it a nice press. And then I like to fold back the other way, and that gives me my nice shape for my box. So there's one. And we're just going to repeat the steps for all 3 of the pillars. And then last but not least, and this is the one I double check the most, because if I'm going to make a mistake and put the glue on the wrong flap, it will be this one. So just be careful. Okay, so there are our 3 pillars. Now, each pillar actually has a front and a back. I have the back, so here's the seam where I glued it together. So this is going to be the back piece, so that that seam is not close to the front. It's glued down to the back. So I'm going to take a pencil and just make a quick little X on the back. And I'm going to do that on all 3 of the pillars. So there's my seam, little X. Now, for your base pillar, if you have light colored cardstock and you want to stamp on the cardstock directly, do that before you get any further in the assembly. You can fold it flat and just stamp on it now, or better yet, before you attach it. But I'm going to put a panel on the back here because I used the dark green Mossy Meadow. So we'll come back to that later, but again, I'm going to mark the back with an X. So one more little bit of marking we are going to do. We are going to mark the 2 largest pillars with a little bit of a pencil mark. So we're going to mark them on the front at 3/4 of an inch from the top. My pencil marking was so light I can't see it. There we go. And the bottom. You don't have to be a specific measurement away. All right, I'm holding this flat because I'm really struggling to see. There we go. I think it's just because of my lighting and the colored cardstock. But I've made a little pencil tick here. You just need to mark it 3/4 of an inch so that you can attach your boxes and keep them straight. Nobody wants a wonky pillar. Okay? And you just need to do that on the 2 largest boxes. So let's get to assembling this, and then we're going to go to decorating. Now here I like to use our Tombow liquid glue, our green glue. So I'm going to take my largest box and sit it here. My pencil marks are up. I'm going to flip the middle box over. There's my X, so this is the back. And I'm going to take my green glue and kind of lightly go around the outside. I like to keep my tip right on the box. Normally, my rule of thumb with the green glue is dot, dot, not a lot. But if I did that, my boxes would probably fall apart. So don't go crazy. You can see it's not gushing glue, but it's enough coverage that it's going to do what I need it to do. So I'm going to line up the edge of my box. So here's the edge and here's my tick marks. Here's my edge and my tick marks on this one. I'm just going to lay this box right on those tick marks. Make sure I'm covering it up. The glue lets me slide the cardstock. And I can also make sure I'm level here where the boxes meet, top and bottom. And then I just hold them in place with my fingers for a minute. Let that grip. And then you can carefully collapse your box and give that a nice press. And then pop it back up. Just be gentle so that you don't accidentally rearrange it and have to reset it. But the glue gives you the flexibility, which is nice. And then we're going to repeat with the same technique for the small pillar. There's that X. Here's my green glue. And again, I'm going to find those tick marks, cover them up with my pillar. I always have to slide it down a little bit so my pencil marks don't show. I can see that my edges are matching, and I can pinch and flatten carefully, press, and then kind of reinflate it, so to speak. All right, so there is my pillar box ready to be decorated. So let's talk about decorating. For the decorations, you want a scene. Now you could probably do this with an all over floral, but the effect is really nice with a panel of paper that gives you a scene like this. So you want a panel that is 5 3/8 of an inch square. I started with a 6-inch square piece of designer series paper and cut it down to 5 3/8 of an inch square. What we are going to do with this is cut it alternating strips of 3/8 of an inch and 5/8 of an inch. Now don't worry, hang with me on this one because you might be feeling overwhelmed. I really promise you it's not that bad. It's more wordy for me to explain it than it is to actually do it. So you can start from either end of the paper, but no matter what you do, start with a 3/8 of an inch strip and then cut a 5/8 of an inch strip, and then a 3/8 of an inch strip and a 5/8 of an inch strip, and so on and so on. So your outer pieces will end up being 3/8 of an inch, and then you'll alternate with those 5/8 of an inch strips. You're going to see what I mean here in a second, but I promise you I'm also not going to bore you to death and cut this whole piece of paper. I'm just going to cut enough that you can see the general idea. Now with our paper trimmer scorer, you can actually cut on either side because we have these measurements on either side. So you cut in the same channel, but you can measure it on either side. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I have found I work a little better on the right side. So I'm going to start with a 3/8 of an inch strip. I'm going to cut and I'm going to lay it to the side. The important thing to do here is to keep them in order. Now, I'm going to slide over to the 5/8 of an inch mark and cut. Make sure you are cutting your paper in the right direction too. Nothing would ruin a card faster. But you can see 3/8 of an inch, 5/8 of an inch. And now I'm going to cut another 3-inch strip, or 3/8 of an inch strip. And now a 5. So you can see how this would go. Skinny, big, skinny, big. So we would just continue to do that so I don't bore you to death. I actually have pre-cut a piece So I'm gonna lay it out for you, and then we are going to go ahead and glue. So I'm gonna bring over my silicone mat again, and I have all my little papers clipped together. Now this is gonna take a second because I'm going to lay them out to make sure I have them in the right order before I start gluing. Something does not look right here. Maybe it does. All right, my papers are a little off somewhere. Where is it? Bear with me, friends. Somewhere I got a little turned around, but you know what? We might just wing it. Let me double check. Of course, this is when I'm going live. Nope, I don't know what I did. I think I'm pretty close. We're gonna roll with it. Now, pretend this is perfect. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip these all over. Actually, this might help me figure out where my pattern is off. Because if your paper has the beautiful print on the back, it will match up. If it was an all over print, it might not work so well, but we'll see if it was just me. Maybe it was just me. It was just me. So don't mind me. My eyeballs are deceiving me this evening. Okay. So, but you'll notice I flipped. I didn't rotate because I found out I rotated them earlier and it threw me off when I was assembling a card. So just remember to flip your pieces over directly. Now, I also find it easier to put all the glue on at one time and then put them on the pillar as opposed to glue, pillar, glue, pillar. Now, do whatever works for you, but I'm going to take the glue and do one narrow line of glue on the thin ones, and two on the wider ones. This is the part I hate the most. Trying not to get glue all over my fingers. Trying not to get glue all over my workstation. This is why I don't use green glue for a lot of things. If you've watched me before, you know I much prefer my tape runners. All right. So glue on all the strips. There we go. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our pillar, and it doesn't really matter as long as you start from one end or the other and then work in that same direction until you're finished. So I'm going to take my card. Here's the back. So hold it up like this. I like to turn mine sideways so that I can really get a nice visual here. And I'm gonna take my first strip of paper. I always have to pick this first one up with two hands. Okay, so flip. This one goes on the side. So the narrow strip goes on the side, kind of like the risers, like steps. And the green glue gives me the ability to move the paper. I did get a little extra glue there. Then my next piece, see, this is why glue and I don't get along. The wider ones go on the tops of the steps, basically. And again, the glue gives me the flexibility to move the paper a little bit, particularly if it's not already stuck to my fingers. All right. You can double check and make sure that your pattern is gelling as you go. So make sure that your pattern goes together. And you will just keep layering on those pieces as you go. I'm gonna try to muscle through this. We'll see how we do, because my fingers are sticky already. Oop. I spoke too soon, there we go. My fingers were pulling that piece right off. So just remember those wider pieces go on the wider steps, and the narrow ones go on the sides. And I promise you, you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, I can't do this. Yes, you can. It's a lot easier. Once you do one, you will be able to march right through a second one if you want to make more than one. I always find the first design is the hardest, and I'm much better off when I don't work with glue. Okay, there we go. Let me wipe the glue off my fingers real quick, and then we will finish decorating the card. So, always keep a baby wipe handy or a damp paper towel when you're working with the green glue. Okay, so here we go. Let's finish up. So if you don't want to stamp directly on the card, you will need a panel for your message. So this back panel is 3 5/8 of an inch by 5 3/4, I'm sorry, 3 5/8 of an inch by 5 3/8 of an inch. These little 1/8 of an inches always get me. And so what I'm going to do here, I have some nice words from our Prairie Grass online exclusive set. We're going to do Sending the Healing Power of Love on the front, and You're Not Alone, I'm Here for You on the back. I'm also going to add a strip of paper for decoration. You do not have to do that. If you've got accent stamps you like that work, please use them. So, all right, here's the You Are Not Alone, I'm Here for You. And then I have die cut a circle from our Stylish Shapes set. It's my favorite die set that we have. And so I'm just going to go ahead and stamp my message for the front while I'm here. I will accent the envelope probably with another strip of designer series paper, but I didn't bring another one over. But decorate your envelope for certain. And so I'm just going to add this coordinating strip to the top here. And then I'm going to cut off the extra, like so. You can use whatever adhesive you want to attach your sentiment panel. Oops, not that one, this one. It is a very narrow border, so just keep that in mind as you are attaching that back panel. And for the front, what I'm going to do is take a couple of dimensionals, make sure that I'm keeping my circle straight up and down. Depending on the design of your paper and the sentiment you are using, you may want to stagger it off to the side. Just watch where you position your dimensionals. This I'm going to do right there in the middle. I think I reversed my designer series paper. I think that's what I did. I think that's why it's throwing me off. Now, I decided for this card I was going to add a bow, but oh, there it is. I managed to lose my ribbon there for a second. You do not have to add a bow. You could just add some embellishment if you like. Little glue boogies stuck to my fingers. It drives me crazy. All right, so here is our bow. This is our white ribbon that's 1/4 of an inch wide. So once my bow is tied, I'm going to trim the ends. Let's see. All right, and forgot to bring my glue dots over. Thankfully, they're close at hand. I'm going to put my bow right on the glue dot. Put the bow right there at the top. Again, be sure if you are mailing this to check with your post office. I'd hate for you to have postage due on such a beautiful card that you're sending to someone. If you like, you could add bling. I think for this one, I'm not going to, but I will show you some where I have added that bling to the cards. So there is our beautiful pillar pyramid card. So let me show you some more samples. This beautiful gallery paper is a stunning pack of paper to do for this card in particular. This is again another piece of the beautiful gallery. This one serves a purpose. I have a wedding next month in a couple of weeks that this is perfect for the young lady getting married. I also made several cards using our Thoughtful Journey Designer Series paper pack. This is again a 6x6. You can experiment with the shapes and bling that you would like to put on the card. This one is a birthday card. Here I used some of the Spotlight of Nature dies. And I just love that someone could set that on a shelf. If I were to get a card like this, I would display it for quite a while. Added some bling there. And then these last two are my favorites. Here I used some of our heart punches and my favorite kind of brassy embellishments for an anniversary card. This is a retired stamp set. I'm sorry to say, I don't normally like to do that, but this paper was just screaming for wedding and anniversaries. I think this is my favorite. It's quite stunning to see that card. So there we go. So I really hope you enjoyed learning how to make the pillar pyramid card. If you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That way, if you want, you can click the notification bell and get a little ding each time a video goes live on the page. You can find me on Facebook as The Faithful Stamper. I share a lot more information there about incentives or sales that Stampin' Up! May have, personal incentives or courses, online kits that I offer. So be sure to check that out as well if you are so inclined. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and happy crafting.